Film Club. You can either have Hop House 13 or Punk IPA.
What do you normally have?
Either.
Just pick one, Andy. Pick one.
I haven't had Hop House for a while, so
Yeah,
you can
that's
go for
kind of
Punk.
good because my dad's got Hop House in, so I've had quite a bit late recently, and I fucking love punk.
Thank you very much for joining us in an episode of Film Club. I am one, your host, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, it's a punk-loving Andy Donaldson.
It looks weird because it's mirrored and stuff like that.
It is a little bit weird.
Yeah. Change of environment, sorry.
Total change of environment this week. We have changed things up just temporarily. We can't get into our studio like normal. Things will be back to normal next week, though, don't worry. Andy, every single week in Film Club, we invite these guys along to watch a film with us.
In our chill little environment.
We don't normally come back to this environment.
Welcome back to our your humble abode.
But this week we have come back here to talk about what film?
There Will Be Blood, which I hope there's none in this place because you are a murderous scumbag.
Jesus.
No.
Not supposed to tell people on the internet that.
Yeah, true. He's a murderous scumbag.
So what is There Will Be Blood all about?
It's about a prospector who ends up finding oil.
Oh, say that again.
He finds oil.
No, what is he?
A prospector.
I've never heard anybody pronounce it that way before.
Go on, what is it?
A prospector.
All right.
You make it sound like he writes prospectuses.
Right, thanks, mate. Thanks. It goes all the way back to settlers, you know, and you just get little prospectors. They just come out and go, woohoo, like that.
Amazing. Carry on.
Yeah, sorry, pronunciation issues with me again. Prospector goes and...
it's not an issue, it's just a...
Weird.
It's a quirk.
Finds oil, and he's got like a crew. One of the crew as a kid. He passes away and he has a kid, so he takes on this kid. And it's about the rise and fall of his oil business. The best example I thought of this on the way up here to meet you was it's like a more modern, even though it's set in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it's more modern Barry Lyndon, because that was about the rise and fall of Barry Lyndon, but in a much different environment.
Yeah,
in terms
I
of the character
see
thing.
That.
But
can I throw one at you then? Barry Lyndon crossed with Days of Heaven.
I haven't seen Days of Heaven to comment, but but yeah.
And what we're doing next week.
Yeah, good, because I was thinking that, I was thinking shit. Yeah, so it's Daniel Day-Lewis in one of his best roles ever, arguably best roles ever. This is the one film that solidified it for me, with him being possibly the great, because we're on about Tom Hardy last week,
we were.
Be one of the best actors of our generation. There's few up there that I think top Tom Hardy, which is hard to do. No pun intended.
It's hardy to do.
And I think Daniel Day-Lewis, it's safe to say, has the crown of best actors.
Yeah.
In the thing, because that guy goes to such lengths to do what he does. There's so much you can say about this film. But I would rather go on about how Daniel Day-Lewis excels in this film, and I'd rather finish on a high note about how amazing he is, because this film is just basically and Paul Dano, so both fantastic. Let's go at the start. So it's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, isn't it?
It's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing most people probably got familiar with Paul Thomas Anderson. Well, a while back. This is probably actually the one that put him on the map most.
Yeah.
But last year he really broke into the public consciousness with Phantom Threads, which was obviously nominated for an
Daniel
Oscar.
Day-Lewis again.
Daniel Day-Lewis again. Get a very different performance though.
Yeah.
Very, very different performance. And have you ever seen Paul Thomas Anderson's first short film?
Nope. What is it?
It's like a 25-minute short film called Coffee and Cigarettes. And it was the inspiration for his first feature film. I started watching it earlier today, and it was I only got to see the first couple of minutes, because then I had to come and set this nonsense up.
Yep.
Because the studio screwed us over.
Yep.
But it was good. It was quite interesting. It was interesting to see where he'd come from and how far he's kind of progressed. What are you doing?
I'm just really self-conscious about the fact he's not recording. But so what's it a general premise of the story? Obviously, it's great how far he's come, but does it have his distinctive elements?
All I got was the intro is a bunch of really close shots of hands with cigarettes and coffee and stuff at a diner.
Right.
So actually, to be fair, straight away that's already quite different to what you get here. Here he doesn't use the close up very much. He Paul Thomas Anderson lives in the mid shot and the wide shot.
He does if we go something looking to the way he's directed the camera in this, there are so many of those shots where it moves around with the guy.
Yeah.
This huge long scene and it goes like that, and they're fucking
I
brilliant.
think that's why he gets so much credit as a director, because he's not the sort of guy who relies on cutting.
Yeah, he's a really good. He's like got really good choreography in his shots.
Absolutely, he'll get huge chunks of his scenes in one shot.
Yeah,
he'll really let the actors walk from like very far away and bring
really
them forward.
Good scene where HW or HG, I can't remember. HW. He brings him down. It's just Daniel Day-Lewis coming back. He's walking over the pipe to come down this. And then obviously have that amazing shot after where the derrick is like absolutely engulfed in flames. Looks brilliant, and they're all covered in oil, shaking hands and stuff like that. Great shot.
I think that's the moment that reminds me of Days of Heaven.
Right.
And you'll see eventually when you watch Days of Heaven. While we're on the subject of him, by the way, that kid's great.
Oh, he's really good, isn't it? Because you're weird with young actors. You not weird.
Yeah, can we give more context that please? That makes me sound really bad.
You have in the past when doing film club, you've had a whoopsie daisies. You've had a couple of issues with kid actors and like the inability to act, and I assume it's a big thing when you come into the film because they can't. Kid actors, because we will all forget. Well, we won't forget Phantom Menace. Me and you love it, but we'll forget that kids acted in Phantom Menace.
Are you an angel?
Oh God, I'm just struggling to get the things now at the moment. That's because I'm on Paul Thomas Anderson and not the actual film. But the guy was really good, and especially when later on in the film he learned he becomes deaf. He does so much acting without needing to do anything. Just those long, again, Paul Thomas Anderson's credit. Those shots where there's a huge lack of dialogue in this film for major parts, just little scenes here and there. And the kid, he portrays that really well. He really portrays the idea that this guy's like. He that part where he comes back and he sends him away to San Francisco and he comes back and he's hitting him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He does loads without speaking. And it's kind of hard to get that from a kid without like laughing at him or without a kid like breaking up themselves and to actually get that emotion.
It's funny because like in the first half, maybe first third of this film, I was thinking how impressive his use of dialogue was. He was only using dialogue when it was necessary.
Yeah.
Like the dialogue was only necessary at certain times.
And even then the dialogue was amazing.
It's great dialogue as well.
And just clarify just something. It was Dylan Fraser. So Dylan Fraser. I'm just going to say
that the young lad's name.
Aye, that was a kiddo.
So I was starting to think to myself as I'm watching the film. This film is very careful with its use of dialogue, and it's very purposeful. It's very intentful when it's used.
Yep.
And then suddenly to have a character who's quite integral to like Daniel Day-Lewis's arc and like his emotional stability, have that completely ripped away and completely removed. Just thematically, it's very strong. It's a very strong move for the film. And
it works brilliantly. It does work brilliantly. Watch that again.
I'm sorry if I keep hitting that. They won't hear it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's going to be me. It's going to, fuck, what I do? And it's really well played. I mean, if you look at the start of the film where he's the prospector, he's going down in the pits and he's finding I think he's looking for silver or something first.
Yeah.
Then moves on to oil.
What? Sorry to cut you off there. What an amazing opening where there's no dialogue. It's kind of montagey cuts of like him digging away, and he finds that thing and he breaks his leg, and you assume he's crawling to get help.
Yeah.
He's not. He's crawling to sign on to say that he owns that mine.
Yeah. It's fucking brilliant.
What a great way of setting a character's motivation.
You know exactly. And you know exactly what Daniel Plainview is all about when you get that intro, that dialogue, that just like sheer determination, ambition, and everything there. And in the end, his passion for prospecting, his passion for oil farming and stuff like that. Which is great because you start with this protagonist of the story that you're really behind. You're really like, I can see that guy. Go on, son. He takes on a little kid. And he's like, this guy has really good morals. He's really good stuff about him. We like this guy. And then obviously, as the film progresses, you see the downturn of this guy's character. You see the emotional like kind of impact it has on him, and not necessarily the greed, but the greed that comes up on him. Yeah. It's more of a story of bitterness and a story of, in some respect, kind of revenge.
But my favourite way they communicate that throughout the entire film. Oh, excuse me. Probably shouldn't be drinking on camera. Never mind.
I will.
My favorite way they're communicating this slow turn to bitterness and greed and the underlying like kind of degradation through the music.
Oh mate, I'm so glad you mentioned the music. So whilst we're going like on sound, the music, it's actually done by Radiohead's guitarist.
Oh right, okay.
So I'm all on board this because I've been listening to an awful lot of Radiohead lately.
Because we've talked a lot about like subtlety and use of drones and things in the past when it comes to music.
So this is it's Johnny someone, I can't remember his name.
And this is like one of my
Johnny Greenwood.
This is Radiohead. A wonderful example of how like music just like it doesn't burst through the doors. It doesn't overtake a scene. The scene isn't built around the music at all. But what it does, it just slowly, like in the back of your head, chips away at you every now and again, reminding you that this maybe isn't a happy story that's going on right now.
It's a classical score. So there's a few interviews I've read since watching this where it's a classical score, and Johnny Greenwood was on about like, I want to see how to do this, and there's an interview where he was saying he was kind of like directing the music around the scenery of the film as opposed to the actual actor of Daniel Plainview, stuff like that. But there is one particular sound, I think it's Henry Plainview is the name of the track. Listen to it, get on YouTube. And it's the most noticeable one. It's played a few times throughout the film. And it's like that chaotic seep into like darkness, which is 3 strings of like different varieties and all kind of not on the same kind of note. And they're all going... and it lands and it's kind of like... It's ever slightly like dissonant. It's not really dissonant. It's just chaotic because it's the chord structure is not there and it doesn't work together. And they all like kind of the 4. It's something we used in when we used a sampler in Reason, Propeller to Reason. It was called portamento, and it's when you go from one note to the other. Instead of going do, you go do like that. So I'm sure there's a technical term for it.
Because there's like this film very easily could be the story of a guy who pulls himself up from having absolutely nothing, like literally digging through the dirt. Doesn't have a wife or any sort of romantic relationship, but like is gifted with a child,
yes,
and like grows to love that child as his own, builds his own company, builds his own life, finds a community to live in, and it's a very positive, happy story. But at no point do you really feel that watching this film.
He's gone through thick and thin, hasn't he?
He just like that musical score maintained throughout his entire film. There's something off.
Yeah, and you know there's something's going, which brings us to his relationship, do we say, with I can't remember the second name of the group, but with Eli. And it starts off with his brother Paul. His brother Paul comes in and goes, I know some land, some oil. I know it's definitely there. Give me the money and I'll bugger off.
Which that confused me a little bit that he wasn't the same guy.
Well, the first time I watched it confused me, but actually watching it again, you actually realise that it's set in stone. Like, that's Paul. You're not Eli. Eli's completely fucking weird, Eli.
I thought at first he'd hidden his identity for him because he was worried. But like as the film went on, it kind of became obvious that he was a different guy.
Yeah. So then you have like Eli, who's like almost like he's taken up the role from his dad with the church. He's the preacher of the church, and he's going out. So I'm just trying to get the quotes up here.
Paul Dano similarly does a job of making you feel like the guy's putting on this like nice, pleasant face.
Yeah,
but there's something underneath,
and he is something else. They both work off each other so well. Like, you go on about films like, oh yeah, their chemistry was fantastic. Their chemistry of like being absolute like hatred towards one another, but then like coming to each other in times of need and stuff like that, or more so Eli towards Daniel as opposed to Daniel towards Eli. He's absolutely it's fantastic. There's the obviously you start off with it's like Eli wants money for the land, and I'm pretty sure it's something like, I didn't actually fully get this guy. The dad sells it for less because obviously Daniel goes to the dad and goes, I can do this amount. And the dad goes, all right, because later on Eli goes, you're stupid and all this.
Yeah. Eli was trying to push for 10,000
because he knew that it was oil beneath the land.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously Daniel was trying to get less, and I'm pretty sure that the dad did a deal. Anyway, my point is, later on Eli keeps hounding him for that money like this, and Daniel keeps going around it. Daniel buys around land around that particular place where he's looking to get. Ultimately, you find out that he takes the oil by drainage, which I'll come on to in a bit. And yes, and then you find when Daniel has his brother, or who he thought was his brother, and he ends up killing, the guys know and say like basically.
Did you believe it was his brother?
No.
No, I didn't. I was like, no way, you're his brother. Right,
yeah,
no way.
You see it throughout the film where people are asking for money and people are asking for this and go like this, and it's just it's people like, see, a rich person will make up some story, and he does that. And he's like, well, I'll tell you, or you can repent, you can your sins and stuff like that. In which Eli absolutely rips the fucking shit out of him, makes him look like a prick. I was going to use the C word, but I refrain because I know you're weird.
No, you can use it as much as you want.
Makes him look like a prick. And then you see that scene where Daniel's just like rock bottom, and then he comes back, which is the end part. And the end part is like where tables are turned. Instead of Daniel saying, I failed my son, I'm a bad father, you have Eli, he's saying, I'm a false prophet, and God is a superstition. And it's just like, it's such a transition. I mean, bear in mind, it's years later. Daniel is a fucking alcoholic whose son's disowned him. Well, he disowned his son first, to be fair. He's become a cunt. There you go, the C word.
I thought we were going to say a crick.
No, I see. He's become like that. I mean, it's the wealth, it's the oil, it's the ability to have that all that like money to buy alcohol and stuff like that, and it's all like what you see from the first scene has gone down, and he turned around, which leads into one of my favorite scenes in all film history. So,
is it the final scene?
It's the final scene. I think it's absolutely superb, and this film's always been up there with me, The Old Blood, for just how good of an ending it is to a whole experience that you watch, especially between two characters that have this ill will towards one another. And as I was saying there, I didn't realize until just watching it now how much Paul Thomas Anderson has on his use of dialogue when he does it, and his actual wording, the phrase in the dialogue that Daniel Day-Lewis recreates perfectly. I mean, the guy's an English actor.
Yeah.
And that is a spot-on accent.
Yeah.
Like, I fully believe that this guy's American and stuff like that.
It's the fact that throughout the film, he's restrained as well.
Oh, like, massively.
As a character, Daniel Day-Lewis is quite restrained, and you know there's something up. Similarly, so is Paul Dano, and so is the dialogue, and so is the music. This film's very restrained, but then when it finally lets loose in that final scene,
yep.
What do you get?
Yep. And he goes like this. He goes, God, I used to do it all the time, so I'm not going to be able to do it. I'll try my best. And he goes, "Stop crying, you snivelling ass. Stop your nonsense. You're just the afterbirth, Eli." And he goes, "You slithered out of your mother's filth." And he goes, "She put you in a glass jar and a mantelpiece. Where were you when Paul suckled his mother's teat? Where were you?" And he goes like that. And I fucking love it how he's going on that and just goading one just like he was slapping him before. Eli was slapping him before. "Who's nursing you, poor Eli? What a bandy sows?" I don't know about. It's been said, nothing you can do about it. And he goes, "If you just take it," he goes, "you lose." And he goes, "Drainage, Eli, you boy, drain dry." And he goes, "I'm sorry." And he goes, "Here, if you have a milkshake," there it is, it's milkshake, it's a straw, sorry, there it is. "And I have a straw." And I go, "Across the room, I drink your milkshake. I drink it up." And then he lays out and does it. And hands down, it is so quotable, it's so amazing. Everyone knows the line, "I drink your milkshake." It's so good, but to do that in that voice and just to have everyone so enticed, I fucking love that scene.
I like that you became more British when you were doing that voice.
I don't care. I just fucking love it. I love everything about it, and I know I might do the accent, but I used to do it. I used to go like, "I drink your milkshake." It's amazing.
It's wonderful because it's this final release of like what's been building up throughout the entire film for him as a character.
God, it's so
You've
good.
just had the release of what happened between him and his son.
Yeah,
you finally get
this emotional outburst,
the repentance that he needed against Paul Dano.
Oh, fucking so good! It's so good.
The way in which they use, I love that moment. I mean, as a director, Paul Thomas Anderson puts it together really nicely by like framing it with the butler as well, because the butler, is it the butler or is it his translator, whoever it is, lets Paul Dano in.
Oh,
leaves him to it, and then
it's his butler.
And then it comes back at the end, and you get that wonderful kind of final wide shot of the whole bowling alley, and it's just like it's destroyed, and then you get this pool of blood, and obviously throughout the entire film, you meet the name. You've kind of been thinking, when's there going to be blood? And you get a little bit of it here and there. People get killed in the not the mines, the
road to his fortune. People,
the drilling shafts and stuff in the wells.
Yeah,
people die there, but there's never like you never get that thick pool of blood sort of thing, and you kind of like there's a bit of anticipation for it.
Yep,
and it finally happens, but it's not glorified.
Yep,
it's in a very classy way, and it's because that's not what the film's about. The film's actually about this kind of erosion of someone's ethics.
Yeah, ethics.
Oh, it's not. It's not really because he's never had ethics. It's more about.
Well, you could argue. That's what I'm saying. To start the film, you could argue about ethics because this guy is wanting to employ people. He's wanting to pay them, and he's bringing stuff to the business. He's helping people with the church as and when. I know he looks a bit angry doing it, but he also takes out a kid and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I know he
tries to pay people fair rates. And stuff
and I know he says about the kids there to enhance his business. He's not. He obviously cared for the kid.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have seen those flashbacks where he was actually looking. The kids playing about with him. It's shown to us that Daniel's just angry.
Yeah.
And again, that emotion seeping out there when what's his name, HW says he wants to leave, it's that emotion coming out not until the end, until Eli, that he does have a massive kind of like breakdown and end up batting in with a bowling pin. saying drainage. Eli, you boy.
It's a stunning performance on both ends.
What did you think of the film? Because you haven't seen it before.
I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. I think I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I thoroughly enjoyed the first third, even the first half. Maybe I think my only gripe with it is it's a little long in the tooth.
Okay,
like it's a beautiful film. The music's really well. It's stunningly directed. Like the performances are amazing. It's an amazing piece of filmmaking. But I just think it doesn't need to be 2.5 hours.
Do you reckon it's maybe like the part? I think it's really quite integral to his actual his turn, his the arc of his character. But maybe like the part with his brother does extend quite a bit. And although that is his first murder and stuff like that, so it is integral. Like that whole period of time between HW getting deaf and his brother dying. Yeah, I agree.
You can maybe chop it down, even though it's his first murder, doesn't seem to have much of an impact on him. Like he didn't care when his employees died.
It cuts time really well, and it stays in that one time period quite a long time.
I do love actually that they're willing to jump time and stuff, and you get from like is it the turn of the century we start?
Yeah, it's 1897, I think.
And then like we kind of cross over very quickly, and like the railroads around and stuff, and like I love that progression of time. It's one thing we always talk about is I love seeing a good chunk of time pass. But yeah, great film. Thoroughly enjoyed. We did it for Film Club.
Daniel Day-Lewis is fantastic.
Daniel Day-Lewis, Paul Dano, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Paul Dano,
not to be confused, by the way, with Paul W. Anderson.
Don't know who he is.
The guy that did the Resident Evil films.
Right, fair play.
Very confusing. So you can let us know what you thought of There Will Be Blood down in the comments below, or you can hit us up on Twitter, as always. We'll be back once again next week, hopefully in our regular studio as opposed to my living room, with Days of Heaven. Because it's about time Andy saw Days of Heaven. If you have never seen Days of Heaven, get watching. We'll meet you back, not here, meet you back at the studio next week to talk about it. I won't meet you there. Can you not turn up next week?
Prospector.